Ethan Cole lived alone on the far edge of human space. His home was a small metal cabin built near the mining outpost of Veganine. Each morning, he woke to the same sound, the hum of engines, the hiss of air filters, and the echo of silence. He worked as a mechanic, fixing mining drones and cargo ships that rarely stayed longer than a day. When night came, he would sit outside under the endless stars, wondering if anyone out there felt as lonely as he did. He was 35, with tired eyes and a quiet heart. Life had taught him to survive, not to dream. But sometimes, when he stared at the sky, he remembered what it felt like to hope. One evening, he saw an old advertisement on the Colony Network, the Intergalactic Companion Program. It promised connection between humans and other intelligent species seeking unity and companionship. It sounded strange, even desperate, but so was he. After months alone, Ethan decided to try. He filled out the form carefully, typing his words slowly. He described himself honestly, a simple man, working on the edge of nowhere, looking for someone to talk to, someone to share silence with. When he pressed send, he felt foolish. No one would answer, he thought. Days passed, then weeks. He almost forgot about the message. Then, one cold night, his old communication console flickered to life. A strange blue light spread across the room. The screen filled with symbols he couldn't read, then slowly translated into English. A voice, calm and deep, spoke through the static. Human named Ethan Cole, I received your signal. He froze. The voice continued. My name is Vela. I come from the world of Arcones. Her accent was unlike anything he'd heard. Each word smooth, heavy, and filled with meaning. Ethan smiled nervously. Hello, Vela, he said. I didn't think anyone would answer. The voice replied softly. I almost didn't. Your signal was weak, but I felt something behind it, something real. Her words made his heart pound. He asked about her world, and she spoke of skies filled with glowing rivers, mountains that sang with energy, and being strong enough to lift stone with their hands. Ethan listened, amazed. It felt like talking to a dream. As days turned into weeks, they spoke more often. She told him she had been chosen to join the program, not for love, but for duty. Yet, every time she heard his voice, her tone grew softer, warmer. He found himself waiting for her messages, replaying her words late into the night. But one thing always stayed in his mind, her warning. I'm not like you, Ethan. My kind was born of stars. We are not fragile. He didn't fully understand, but he didn't care. He only wanted to meet her. One morning, his terminal blinked again, showing new coordinates. Vela's voice returned, firm and gentle. My ship has been approved for landing. I will arrive in 3 days. Do not be afraid. He sat frozen in silence, staring at the message. She was coming. The thought filled him with fear and excitement at once. He cleaned his cabin for hours, even fixing things that didn't need repair. He practiced what he might say. How do you greet someone from another world? How do you greet someone you've already begun to care for? The day of her arrival came. The colony's landing pad buzzed with activity as a large silver ship appeared through the clouds. Its surface shimmered like a mirror, reflecting the sun across the valley. The other workers gathered, whispering and laughing. A mail-order alien bride. One man joked, maybe she's got 3 heads. Ethan tried to ignore them, his heart racing as the ship lowered itself with a deep mechanical hum. The hatch opened slowly, steam pouring out in waves of golden mist. The crowd fell silent. Then she appeared, a shadow against the light, tall and graceful, her armor glimmering like liquid silver. When she stepped onto the ground, the metal beneath her feet bent slightly. Her eyes glowed with blue fire, scanning everything around her until they rested on Ethan. He felt small, yet not afraid. She walked toward him, her long black hair flowing like a current of stars. When she finally stood before him, she knelt to meet his gaze. Her voice echoed like distant thunder. Ethan Cole, I am Vela of Arcones. I have come for you. The crowd gasped, unsure whether to laugh or run. But Ethan only stared into her glowing eyes, lost between awe and disbelief. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Vela tilted her head slightly, studying him. Then she smiled, a small, gentle smile that made the air feel lighter. "Do not fear me," she whispered. "I am not here to harm you." And as the sun set behind her, casting her shadow across the valley, Ethan realized something he hadn't felt in years. He was no longer alone. The air around the landing pad still shimmered from the ship's engines. Everyone stood frozen, staring at the tall figure who had stepped out of the golden mist. Ethan's hands trembled as he looked at her. Vela, the alien woman from Arcones, was even more breathtaking than her transmissions had shown. Her skin seemed to glow faintly under the sun, a soft metallic shimmer, as if made from light itself. Her eyes, deep blue and alive, studied every movement around her like a warrior trained to see danger before it came. She looked at Ethan and smiled again, a strange warmth in her expression. But there was also sadness, something heavy hidden behind her calm face. The miners nearby began whispering, their laughter nervous and sharp. "Guess the human ordered himself a war machine," one said under his breath. Vela's head turned slightly, her glowing eyes narrowing. The man went silent instantly. She didn't say a word, but the look she gave was enough to make even the bravest step back. Ethan walked closer, his voice shaking. "You really came," he whispered. Vela tilted her head, her long black hair brushing over her shoulder. "I made a promise, human. I do not break promises," she said softly. Her tone was powerful, yet it carried something gentle, a warmth that made Ethan forget the stares around him. When she moved, her steps were smooth and heavy, the ground humming faintly under her weight. She wasn't wearing armor this time, only a dark, sleeveless suit that shimmered with strange runes along her arms. Ethan noticed faint scars across her skin, glowing for a moment before fading. "What are those?" he asked quietly. Vela's eyes turned distant. "Memories of battles I survived," she said, "and warnings of the ones still coming." The colony leader, an older man named Hark, approached carefully. He forced a smile, though his eyes betrayed fear. "Welcome to Vega 9, ma'am," he said. "We don't get many visitors from wherever you're from." Vela simply nodded. "You will get fewer when they learn I am here," she replied. No one understood what she meant, but the unease spread quickly. As the sun began to set, Ethan led her to his cabin. Vela followed silently, her presence filling the narrow path. When they reached the door, she stopped, looking at the small, rusted building. "This is your shelter?" she asked, curiosity in her voice. Ethan nodded shyly. "It's not much, but it keeps the storms out." She crouched slightly, running her fingers over the metal wall. The wall groaned under her touch, bending as if it were thin paper. Ethan gasped. "Please, careful." Vela blinked, pulling her hand away quickly. "Forgive me," she said quietly. "I forget how fragile human things are." Inside, she looked around in silence, examining every corner. She seemed fascinated by the simplest things, the flicker of the lamp, the hum of the air recycler, even the old photo of Earth taped near his bed. Ethan offered her water, unsure if she even drank it. She took the glass carefully, her fingers too large for the handle. She sniffed the water first, then smiled. "Your world still gives clean water freely," she said. "Ours has forgotten the taste of it." Her words made Ethan's heart ache. He could sense loneliness in her too, a loneliness that reached across galaxies. That night, she stood outside his cabin, looking up at the stars. Ethan joined her quietly. The wind carried dust and faint static from the mining fields. Vela's voice broke the silence, low and steady. "Those stars, Ethan, they watch us, but they remember things too." He frowned. "Remember what?" "Wars," she said, "and promises made by dying civilizations." Her gaze fixed on a distant blue star. "My people once ruled near that light. Now it is all dust." Ethan felt the tension in her words, the weight of history behind them. He wanted to ask more, but something in her expression told him to stay silent. After a long pause, she turned to him, her glowing eyes softer now. You asked for companionship, Ethan Cole. Not protection, she said, but I cannot stay hidden forever. He blinked, confused. What do you mean? There are those who will come for me, she whispered. And when they do, this world will burn if I do not stand. Ethan felt his stomach tighten, the calm of the night breaking with her words. Suddenly, the ground beneath them vibrated. A distant rumble echoed across the valley, like thunder trapped underground. Ethan looked around, startled. It's just the mining rigs, he said quickly, but Vela's eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. No, she said, that rhythm is not a machine. It is a signal. Before Ethan could respond, she raised her hand. Her palm opened, revealing a small, embedded crystal pulsing with red light. The glow reflected in her eyes as she whispered, "They found me." Ethan stepped back, his heart racing. "Who found you?" Vela looked toward the horizon, where lightning flickered behind the clouds. Her voice turned cold, almost inhuman. "Hunters," she said, "the ones who destroyed my world." The sky above them flashed again, and a dark shape passed across the stars. Ethan's console inside the cabin began to beep. Unidentified ships entering orbit. He turned to her, fear rising in his chest. "What do we do?" Vela's glowing eyes turned toward him, her voice calm but filled with power. "You stay behind me, Ethan Cole," she said, her tone fierce and protective. "Because tonight, I'll remember who I was." The wind howled, dust swirling around them as another shadow crossed the moon. Vela stood tall, her hair whipping in the storm, her eyes burning brighter than the stars above. In that moment, Ethan understood. This was no ordinary woman. She was a living weapon, a guardian born from the heart of a dying sun. And the galaxy had just come to reclaim her. The night after the signal, Vega 9 was not the same. The air felt charged, the wind heavier, as if the whole planet was holding its breath. Vela didn't sleep. She stood outside Ethan's cabin, eyes glowing faint blue, watching the distant stars blink in coded rhythms. Ethan sat inside, unable to rest, every few seconds glancing out the window to see her silhouette framed by the light of the moons. Something about her felt different now, sharper, as if the calm woman he met had vanished and a warrior had taken her place. When morning came, Vela finally entered the cabin. Her voice was quiet, but carried weight. "They know where I am. The hunters will come again, and next time they won't hide behind clouds." Ethan frowned, his heart racing. "Hunters? Who are they?" She looked at him for a long moment before answering. "Not who," she said softly. "What?" She touched the crystal on her palm, and a projection filled the room, an image of a red sun surrounded by black ships. The ships looked alive, covered in dark spines and glowing veins of light. "This is Arcones," she said, "my home, once full of life before the burning war." Ethan stared, the sight of the burning planet reflected in his eyes. "What happened?" Vela's expression turned hollow. "My people made a mistake. We built weapons from the hearts of stars, living energy bound to flesh, and I am one of them." Ethan's breath caught. "You mean you were created?" "Forged," she corrected, "born in a lab of dying suns, trained to fight gods, to protect the Arconian Empire." Her voice trembled slightly. "But power always hungers. Our leaders wanted to rule beyond the stars, and the Council of Worlds feared us, so they sent the hunters, machines that consume energy and flesh alike." She turned away, her shadow flickering across the wall. "They killed billions, and when they came for me, I ran." Ethan stepped closer, trying to find words. "Why come to me, then? Why answer my message?" She looked back at him, and for the first time, her voice softened again. "Because your signal reached farther than you know, Ethan. It reached a dying star, and me." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, though no storm brewed. Vela's eyes dimmed as she continued. "When I saw your message, I saw hope. I wanted to know what it meant to live without orders, without chains." Ethan nodded slowly, his heart aching for her. But before he could speak, a sharp alarm pierced the air. His console flashed red. Incoming objects. Atmosphere entry detected. He rushed to the window. Dozens of streaks of fire burned through the clouds, falling like meteors toward the mining valley. "They're here," Vela whispered, her tone low and cold. The first explosion hit near the refinery, shaking the ground. Workers screamed and scattered as black shapes descended from the smoke. Metallic creatures crawling on 6 limbs, their heads covered in glowing eyes. The hunters. Ethan grabbed a plasma cutter, his hands shaking. Vela stepped in front of him, her shoulders tense. "Stay behind me," she commanded. One of the creatures lunged, firing a bolt of red energy. It struck her square in the chest, yet she didn't move. When the smoke cleared, her armor glowed white, the mark fading as if erased by light itself. She raised her hand, and a pulse of energy rippled outward. The ground exploded, throwing the machines back like leaves in a storm. Ethan stumbled, staring at her in shock. She moved with impossible speed, striking the attackers with her bare hands. Every hit left a trail of blue fire, every movement a roar of wind. But for every machine she destroyed, 2 more landed. The colony sirens wailed. Vela turned to Ethan. "Get the humans to safety now." "I can't leave you," he shouted. "You must," she said, "because if I fall, this world dies with me." Ethan ran toward the shelters, guiding the miners underground, but he couldn't stop glancing back. He saw her standing alone on the ridge, surrounded by fire and shadow, her body shining like a small sun. Each time a hunter struck, she countered with force that shook the mountains. Then a massive blast hit her from above, an orbital cannon shot. The light swallowed her completely. Ethan screamed her name. When the light faded, Vela was still standing, her armor cracked, but her eyes brighter than ever. She looked up toward the sky where the hunter ship hovered. "You should have stayed in the dark," she growled. She raised both arms, her palms glowing. Twin beams of white energy shot upward, striking the ship and splitting it in half. The explosion painted the clouds with fire. The storm went silent. Ethan felt tears in his eyes, half from fear, half from awe. The ground smoked. The air smelled of burning metal. Vela slowly turned back to him, her steps heavy, her armor fading into her skin once more. "It is not over," she said quietly. "They will send more." Ethan walked closer, his voice breaking. "Then we fight together." Vela looked at him long and hard, her face unreadable. Finally, she nodded. "You are brave, human," she said, "but bravery is not enough. We will need something stronger." "What?" he asked. "Faith," she replied, "in each other." As dawn broke over Vega 9, smoke rising into the red sky, Ethan realized he had stepped into a war far beyond anything he could imagine. And beside him stood a being forged in the heart of a star, now fighting not for power, but for love. For 2 days, Vega 9 lived in silence after the battle. The miners stayed underground, afraid to return to the surface. The sky was still red from the burning wreckage of the destroyed ships. And yet, Vela didn't rest. She stood on the ridge above the colony, watching the horizon, her glowing eyes never blinking, her body tense like a drawn blade. Ethan brought her food, though he knew she barely needed it. "You haven't moved for hours," he said softly. Vela didn't look at him. "They are regrouping," she murmured. "The hunters never stop after one strike." Her voice was calm, but beneath that calm, Ethan could hear something else, fear, not for herself, but for him. That night, a strange quiet filled the air. No wind, no sound, only stillness. Then, the stars above began to fade one by one, swallowed by a black shape blocking out the sky. Ethan stepped out of his cabin, looking up, his breath caught in his throat. A massive ship hovered above Vega 9, larger than the colony itself, its hull glowing with red veins of energy. The darkness it cast over the valley was complete. Vela's eyes flared bright. "The Mother Hunter," she whispered. "They sent their queen." Before Ethan could speak, Beams of red light shot down from the ship. Buildings exploded, dust and fire rising into the night. The ground split open as shock waves rippled through the colony. Miners screamed, alarms blared, and chaos filled the air. Ethan ran toward the control tower, trying to reach the radio. "Vela, we have to call for help," he shouted. But she had already leapt into the sky, soaring upward in a flash of blue light. She struck the first assault ship midair, her body spinning like a comet, tearing through metal with her bare hands. The explosion painted the clouds white and gold. From the darkness, dozens more ships emerged, releasing waves of mechanical soldiers that rained down like burning meteors. Ethan watched from the ground, powerless. Vela landed beside him, the earth cracking under her feet. Her armor glowed, cracked, and then sealed itself. "Get everyone to the shelter," she said, her tone like thunder. "But what about you?" Ethan cried. "I was made for this," she replied, and turned toward the incoming storm. The hunters came in waves, metal claws scraping, plasma weapons firing. Vela charged into them like a living storm. Every strike from her hand sent shockwaves that shattered steel. When they surrounded her, she slammed her fists into the ground. The shockwave flattened everything within 100 meters. Ethan shielded his eyes as the light burned brighter than the sun. Her voice roared through the chaos. "You wanted the last of our conies. Come and take me." Above them, the mother hunter opened a massive cannon aimed at the surface. The sky glowed blood red. Vela looked up and whispered something in her own language. The energy around her shifted, her veins glowing white, her hair lifting as if caught in windless fire. Ethan could feel the air itself bending. "Vela, no," he shouted. "You'll kill yourself?" But she smiled faintly. "Better I burn once more than let you fall." She leapt upward, breaking the sound barrier. Her body turned into a streak of blinding light heading straight for the giant ship. The cannon fired, a beam of red cutting through the atmosphere. Vela met it head-on. The collision split the night, the shockwave shattering windows across the colony. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a white explosion burst through the clouds, bright as a new sun. Ethan fell to his knees, the force knocking him back. The sky glowed, and for a heartbeat, it looked as though dawn had come early. When the light faded, half the ship was gone, the rest breaking apart and falling like burning debris. He searched the sky desperately. "Vela, where are you?" he shouted. No answer came, only smoke and falling wreckage. Minutes later, something crashed into the sand behind him with a thunderous boom. He turned and saw her, Vela, lying on her side, armor broken, energy fading. He ran to her, dropping beside her. "Vela, don't you dare leave me." Her eyes flickered open, glowing faintly. "Ethan Cole," she whispered, "you're still alive." He nodded, tears running down his face. "You saved us." "Not yet," she murmured. "The Queen still breathes." Ethan looked up through the smoke. The Mother Hunter's core still pulsed weakly, red light spreading through its wrecked hull. Vela tried to stand but stumbled, her body shaking. Ethan held her arm. "There has to be another way," he said. "There is," she replied, her voice fading, "but it means I go where you cannot." She pressed her glowing hand against his chest. A surge of warmth spread through him, like sunlight filling his heart. "If I fall, follow the light inside you," she said. "It will lead you to my people." Then she rose again, her body burning with energy she no longer controlled. The ground trembled as she took flight one final time. Ethan watched as she vanished into the clouds, a trail of white fire in the red sky. Moments later, the heavens split apart with a final explosion that turned night into day. When silence returned, the Mother Hunter was gone. Only ashes and drifting sparks remained. Ethan stood alone on the smoking ground, his chest still glowing faintly where her hand had touched him. He looked toward the sky and whispered her name, "Vela." And though she was gone, the stars above seemed to flicker brighter, as if answering his call. When dawn returned to Vega, 9. The sky was gray and heavy with smoke. The once busy colony now lay in ruins, silent except for the soft crackle of burning metal. Ethan wandered through the wreckage, calling Vela's name again and again. But only the wind answered, whispering through the broken walls. He stopped where she had fallen, the ground still scorched and glowing faintly blue. Something pulsed beneath the ash, a tiny shard of crystal, warm to the touch. When he picked it up, it pulsed brighter, as if recognizing him. He held it close, and a voice echoed faintly in his mind. "Ethan Cole, if you hear this, then I am no longer there." It was Vela's voice, soft and steady. He froze, listening, afraid to breathe. "You carry a part of me now, a fragment of Arcones," she continued. "The power I left within you will awaken when the stars call your name." His chest began to glow faintly, the same light that had burned inside her. He stumbled backward, clutching his heart. "What did you do, Vela?" he whispered. The crystal answered with warmth instead of words. Days passed, and rescue ships arrived from nearby colonies. But the moment they scanned Ethan, alarms blared. "Energy signature unknown," the officer said nervously. "This reading, it's not human." Ethan looked at the glowing marks spreading across his skin. It looked like starlight etched into flesh. He realized he was changing. That night, as he slept in the recovery bay, the world around him dissolved into light. He found himself standing in an endless field of glowing stars. And before him stood Vela, not broken or weary, but radiant and alive. "You found a shard," she said with a smile. He reached for her, but his hand passed through light. "You're not real," he said sadly. "Not in your world," she replied, "but in this place, memory and spirit meet." Ethan looked around, stars swirling like rivers. "What is this?" "This is the memory core of Arcones," she said, "and now it lives inside you." Her tone grew heavier. "The Council of Worlds feared my people because we unlocked the energy of dying suns. We called it soul essence, and we used it to forge living guardians like me. But when they destroyed my world, we hid fragments of that energy across the galaxy, waiting for someone pure of heart to awaken it again." Ethan's eyes widened. "You're saying you chose me?" "No," she said softly. "The light did. I only listened." He felt his body trembling, the starlight around him pulsing faster. "What happens now?" he asked. Vela stepped closer, her voice both loving and fierce. "You will see what I saw, the truth of what humanity is, the strength they tried to bury." The stars shifted, forming shapes of battles and ancient fleets. Human warships shining beside alien ones, united long before recorded history. "Humans were once part of something greater," she whispered, "but they forgot." Suddenly, the light darkened, shadows spreading through the stars. Vela's eyes turned cold. "They're coming again, Ethan," the hunter survived. He clenched his fists, anger burning where fear once lived. "Then I'll fight them." Vela smiled faintly. "Not alone," she said. "The shard inside you will guide others, those who carry the same spark." Before Ethan could answer, the stars began to collapse around him. Her final words echoed through the fading light. "When the night is darkest, look for the signal. You are the beacon now." He woke with a gasp, sitting upright in the med bay. The lights flickered, and his chest burned with blue fire. Outside, the sky turned crimson again, new ships entering orbit. The colony guard shouted, scrambling for weapons. But Ethan stood still, feeling no fear. The glow from his body spread outward, activating the crystal shards buried beneath the ground. Dozens of lights erupted across the valley, forming a circle of blue fire around the colony. A deep hum filled the air, the same sound Vela once made when she fought. Ethan looked up at the heavens and whispered, "If you can hear me, Vela, show me how." The sky answered with a single beam of light descending from the clouds. It touched him gently, wrapping around his body like living energy. His eyes flared blue, his voice steady. "Vega, 9 will not fall." The air crackled and the ground trembled. And for the first time, Ethan Cole, once a lonely mechanic, stood not as a man, but as the heir of Arcones, protector of two worlds. The day the sky turned red again, Vega 9 was no longer alone. Ethan stood at the center of the ruined colony, his body glowing with the same energy that once burned in Vela's veins. Around him, soldiers, miners, and refugees watched in silent awe. They had seen men fight before, but never like this. When Ethan raised his hand, the air hummed, and the broken defense towers flickered back to life. The lights pulsed blue, forming a ring of energy that encircled the colony like a living shield. High above, the Council fleet appeared, thousands of silver ships filling the orbit. Their message echoed through every frequency. Human settlement of Vega 9. Surrender the Arconian artifact or face erasure. Ethan's voice was calm but powerful. You already erased one world. You won't erase another. The command ships opened their bays, releasing a swarm of drones that darkened the sky. The people of Vega 9 looked to Ethan, waiting frightened. He turned to them, his voice firm but gentle. You've spent your lives mining stars for others. Now you fight for your own. He looked toward the horizon where the enemy light glowed brighter. For every soul who ever stood alone, today we stand together. The shield flared blue as the first bombardment began. Bolts of plasma crashed against the barrier, shaking the ground like thunder. Ethan staggered but didn't fall. The mark on his chest blazed brighter, feeding power into the colony's defenses. The energy spread from him to the towers, from the towers to the people, each heartbeat syncing like a rhythm. The colony had become one living entity, breathing, fighting, surviving. Inside the main control room, Commander Hark shouted over the alarms. Whatever you're doing, Cole, it's draining every reactor. Ethan smiled faintly. Then we'll give everything we have. He reached into the console and placed the Arconian shard inside. The entire colony erupted with light. Beams of energy shot upward, tearing through the clouds and striking the nearest enemy ships. The fleet scattered, half of it burning, but the largest vessel, the Council's flagship Aurelian, remained unmoved. Its voice filled the air once more, cold and mechanical. Unauthorized use of star-class energy detected. Humanity has violated galactic law. Ethan clenched his fists. Then your law dies with your arrogance. He looked toward the sky and whispered, Vela, guide me. The mark on his chest pulsed 3 times. A bright beam of blue light split the clouds. From within it emerged something impossible. Vela's form, woven from pure energy, her presence vast and radiant. She hovered above the colony, her voice echoing through the minds of everyone present. You touched the light, Ethan, and the light answered. He stared in disbelief, tears forming in his eyes. You're here. I never left, she said. I am the power within you. The flagship began to charge its main cannon. Vela's spectral figure turned, her voice thunderous. You would still challenge the children of stars. The ship fired, a beam large enough to vaporize the colony. Ethan raised both arms, the ground beneath him glowing with Arconian runes. The blast hit the shield, and for a moment the world went white. But the shield held, stronger than before. The people cheered, their fear replaced with fire. Ethan's voice carried across every communicator, every ship. This is humanity's message to the stars. We do not kneel. He focused the energy within him, merging it with the shard. The colony's reactors glowed brighter, then overloaded into a massive surge of blue light. A pulse shot outward, traveling across space like a tidal wave. When it struck the enemy fleet, every ship powered by corruption or greed simply stopped. Engines died, weapons froze. The silence that followed was absolute. On the Aurelian, the council leaders shouted in panic, their systems failing, their shields crumbling. Ethan's hologram appeared on their bridge, eyes glowing like twin suns. You tried to cage the light of creation, he said slowly, but light does not obey. The flagship's reactor overloaded, its core imploding in a silent burst of white. Back on Vega 9, the people stared at the fading glow. Vela's image began to dissolve into particles of light. Ethan reached toward her, his voice breaking. "Don't go." "I'm not gone," she whispered. "I am in every heartbeat that dares to rise against the dark." She touched his chest one last time. "Lead them, Ethan Cole, the universe watches." As her light faded into the stars, Ethan stood alone beneath the dawn. The red sky slowly turned gold. Around him, humanity rose from the ashes, not as miners, not as outcasts, but as defenders of the light. And somewhere far beyond, the echo of Vela's voice lingered among the stars. "The galaxy has a new name for fear," she whispered. "It is called humanity." When the last fire died on Vega 9, the universe went silent. No one expected humanity to survive, yet the lonely mining world still shone beneath the broken sky. Ethan Cole stood on the ridge where Vela had once fought, the wind carrying dust and memory. The mark on his chest no longer burned. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat made of light. Across the galaxy, sensors flickered, starships lost signal, and strange blue waves rippled through hyperspace. The pulse from Vega 9 had awakened something ancient, something that remembered the name Arcones. On a dozen worlds, beings long hidden stepped into the light, their eyes glowing the same color as Ethan's. The fragments of Vela's kind had answered his call. Ethan gathered the survivors in the command hall. The walls cracked and blackened. He spoke softly, his voice echoing through the ruined station. "We cannot hide anymore. Vega 9 is no longer a colony. It is a beacon." No one argued. They had seen him stop the impossible, and the light within him made even the darkest corners seem alive again. Far beyond, remnants of the council gathered in secret. Their leaders argued in fear. "Humanity has touched forbidden power," one hissed. "Then we erase them before they rise," another replied. But even as they spoke, their screens flickered, each showing a single symbol, a spiral of blue light shaped like a woman's eyes. The sign of Vela, the star-crushing bride. That night, Ethan stood beneath the twin moons, his hands resting on the cracked soil. He whispered to the wind, "You said you'd never truly leave." A faint shimmer formed beside him, a ghost of light. Her voice flowed through the air. "And I kept my word." He turned, and there she was, not flesh, not illusion, but energy woven into shape. Her face calm, her gaze proud. "Your heart carried my core, Ethan, and now it calls the others." He frowned, the wind tugging at his jacket. "What others?" Vela raised her hand, and the night erupted with falling stars. Each streak of light crashed gently across the desert plain, forming figures of light, warriors of Arcones reborn from the scattered fragments of her kind. They bowed to Ethan, their voices a chorus. "We heard your signal, Starbearer. We serve the light of Arcones." Ethan's chest tightened. "I'm not a leader," he said quietly. Vela smiled. "Neither was I, until someone taught me what love meant." Her voice softened. "Now, the light belongs to you." Before dawn, Vega 9 blazed with construction and unity. Humans and Arconian spirits worked side by side, building towers that reached the clouds. Each tower pulsed with the same blue energy that once lived in Vela's heart. The beacon network was born, signals meant to awaken forgotten hearts across the stars. But peace never comes without shadow. Deep within the galactic void, the surviving hunters rebuilt themselves, feeding on the wreckage of the Council fleets. They learned fear, and that fear twisted into rage. When they rose again, they did so not as machines, but as a swarm of living metal, reborn and vengeful. Their leader spoke one word that echoed through the void: humanity. Ethan felt the tremor through the shard in his chest. Vela's light shimmered beside him. "It begins again," she whispered. "Then we finish it together," he said, his eyes glowing like her own. When the swarm reached Vega 9, they did not find prey. They found an army. Human ships forged with Arconian crystal, guided by the energy of living stars. At their center stood Ethan and the ghost of Vela, their forms fused by the same heartbeat. He raised his hand, and the fleet behind him mirrored the motion. "For Earth," he said, "for Arcones, for every world that was told to kneel." The first clash lit up the heavens. Vela's spectral form stretched across space, her energy wings cutting through the swarm. Ethan's voice echoed through the comms. "We are the children of dust and fire. Remember that." Every human pilot felt her presence guiding them. Every Arconian spark burned brighter. The hunters screamed in static, their systems collapsing under the light that refused to die. When the final explosion faded, only starlight remained. The swarm was gone, erased by the energy of unity. Vela turned to Ethan one last time, her glow dimming. "The stars are safe again," she said softly. He shook his head, tears shining in his eyes. "No, we are safe because of you." She touched his cheek, her light fading into the sunrise. "Then promise me one thing." "Anything," he whispered. "Never let them forget that love once crushed the stars." Her form dissolved into the morning light, scattering across the sky. And for a heartbeat, the galaxy seemed to pause in reverence. Every radio, every beacon, every heart felt her whisper. The star-crushing bride watches. Ethan looked to the horizon, where new dawn bathed the colony in gold. Behind him, the humans and Arconians knelt together. He raised his hand toward the sun and smiled. "The light lives on," he said, "and so does she." The wind swept across the valley, carrying her laughter. And somewhere among the stars, a new legend was born. The legend of a human who loved an alien so deeply that even death bowed before them. And the galaxy would remember forever the name of Vela, the star-crushing bride.